All right, good afternoon, good morning, good evening to some of you. Welcome to our second Composites Tech Talks powered by Composites One and IACME. My name is Tyler Blevins. I'm the Workforce and Community Development Manager for IACME. I'm joined by James Jones. He is the Lead Technical Support Manager for Composites One. And today we are joined by special guest Drew Simmons. He is the Regional Sales Manager for Magnum Venus Products. And we are very excited because he's joined us and he's going to be talking about why the right equipment matters. Go ahead, next slide, please. So real quick before we jump in, we want to go ahead and give the audience some time to give a little bit of their input. So real quick, tell us where you're from, tell us where you're tuning in from, tell us maybe who you're representing, what company you might be a part of. Tell us how you're involved with the industry. That's something we want to encourage is audience participation. So let us know where you're tuning in from today. I also want to give a big shout out to our featured partners today, Composites One, the Composites Institute, that is IACME, Aerovac, Magnum Venus Products, and the Closed Mold Alliance. I want to say a big thank you to them. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump in. So I want to tell you a little bit about IACME. So IACME is the Institute for Advanced Composites Manufacturing Innovation. We are committed to accelerating the development and adoption of innovative manufacturing technologies for low-cost, energy-efficient, advanced composites. Our collaborative work through public-private partnerships drives domestic production capacity, strengthens U.S. manufacturing competitiveness, and elevates job creation across the U.S. composites industry. So now I'm going to hand it off to my co-host, James Jones.
Thanks, Tyler. Before we hand it off to Drew, let me tell you a little bit about Composites One. I noticed we have some people joining from Knoxville, Tennessee, and Chicago. We're streaming actually to 3 different platforms today. So we're streaming to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So let us know where you're joining us from. I'm joining from Fort Worth, Texas, and I guess Drew and Tyler are from Knoxville as well. So
Yep,
yeah, it looks like we got some people from the UK. Yeah.
Yeah, let us know what platform you're streaming in from as well.
Yeah. What role you serve in the industry, what you're looking to learn. But a little bit about Composites One. We're the leading materials distributor in North America. We have more than 44 stocking locations, partnering with over 600 of the industry's best suppliers, and delivering more than 40,000 products on our own fleet of trucks. So we supply to many different industries: wind energy, aerospace, marine, transportation, just to name a few. And I'm a part of a team of 10 technical support managers located throughout North America. I cover the central region, but we have technical support managers that cover the West Coast, East, Midwest, and Canada as well. Our role is to guide composite manufacturers on the most appropriate products and process solutions for their specific applications. With our extensive partner network, we can really develop the right solution rather than being tied to a single solution for all applications that we see. Also, along with the Closed Mold Alliance, we help customers implement closed mold processes such as vacuum infusion processing, reusable bag molding, and light RTM. And Composites One also has dedicated aerospace and advanced composite teams. So today's topic with Drew Simmons from MVP on why the right equipment matters. It's very relevant in today's climate. Along with the right materials, the right equipment is necessary to safely produce high quality, consistent parts while minimizing waste. MVP is a premier supplier of fluid movement solutions for the composites industry. I'll go ahead and hand it over to Drew and to tell us a little bit more about MVP and why the right equipment matters.
Awesome. Thanks, James. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Looks like we've got a good audience from around the world, so that's exciting to see. So I just wanted to dive in and give a little background on Magnum Venus Products, or MVP, who I work for. So we started in 1938, actually, as a coatings distributor for a lot of the automotive OEMs. And then around the 1970s, saw a need for manufacturing of fluid spray equipment in the fiberglass industry. And so in the 1970s, we started manufacturing pumping equipment for spray up applications then. And then we've been in the composites industry ever since, moving into close molding, adhesive and bonding equipment, some specialty stuff, advanced equipment, with a wide breadth of equipment availability and production solutions for the composite industry. We have 5 service centers across North America. We have 35 sales and service experts dedicated in North America, providing solutions directly to you, all the customer, and also through key partnerships with folks like Composites One. So we serve over 200 countries globally through a really knowledgeable distributor network overseas that we're really proud of. And so today, as James said, we're going to be talking about why the right equipment matters. And so before we get into it, I just wanted to kind of give some key takeaways that we're hoping that you get from this. So we're going to talk about utilizing the right fluid movement equipment to maximize efficiency. We're going to talk about leveraging expert advice for a comprehensive solution. And then at the end, we're going to touch on using automation and new technologies to help speed up your production. So we, like Tyler mentioned and James, we would love to have you engage as much as possible in the chat. So if there's anything that we talk about that you want us to focus in on more or go back to, please just let us know. We're hoping for an open dialogue that we can talk with each other. So.
Yeah, Drew, it looks like we have several people joining us from LinkedIn in the UK. Shout out to Andy and Alan and Andre from South Africa, it looks like.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Very wide and diverse audience today. Really exciting.
That is really exciting. If you are, so here's just a few industries that we serve. So those that are on, and we'd love to hear if this is, or if you represent any of the industries on here that we serve. So pool, bath, recreation, aerospace, any of those, or maybe somewhere outside of that you're joining us from. And like we mentioned earlier, also what role you're in. So if you're involved in these industries or possibly outside of that, we'd love to hear it.
What sort of solutions do you have for the aerospace industry?
Yeah, so looking at this slide here, so there's a couple of different things that we service for the aerospace industry. Some of our automated equipment for doing from winding some tanks or fuselages and stuff like that we'll look at a little later. If you look at that far right side, we have some equipment for fixed and variable ratio systems for some epoxies that are used heavily in the aerospace industry. And then we get to the end also, you'll actually see on a 3D printer an aerospace part being printed. So we've got a few different options to provide for that industry. And so I wanted to give everybody a quick overview of some of the equipment that we do provide. So starting there on the left, we have some open spray up equipment, some of the chopper and wet out and gel coat systems for your open spray applications. And then moving there to the middle, we've got systems for close molding, for injection, infusion, reusable bag. Anything from a good starter manual system that's fully pneumatic to a full PLC controlled. Folks are looking for more automation, more controls to really be able to dial in the process. And then over there on the right, like I mentioned a little earlier, we've got some specialty type equipment for specifically the pultrusion industry, and then some fixed and variable ratio systems for epoxies, urethanes, and silicones. So really a wide breadth of equipment availability specifically for the composites industry. And then we also have a robust line of adhesive and sealant equipment as well. So, anything that you're using in your factories to bond or seal, chances are we've got something that could help you out. So whether it's a methacrylate, a polyester vinyl ester putty, or maybe a heavy viscosity single component material you're using to seal, keep out moisture, we've got some good options for you there.
Hey, Drew, it looks like this equipment's set up to dispense from drums and pails. Can you also do bulk solutions as well, like totes and that sort of thing? Absolutely.
And that's really, we'll talk about it here in a little bit. That's something that we look at when we're looking at your process. How does the material get to the pump, and then how does it get out onto the part, right? So we can do totes, we can do bulk systems, we can come out of barrels, we can come out of drums, pails. A wide variety of different containers of whatever you're getting your material in. You'll actually see some of it if we want to watch this video. You'll see some of the equipment in action. And so this is at a boat manufacturer. You'll see some of the equipment. So this first video is a gel coat spray system. spraying on the gel coat on that whole mold, boat manufacturer. And then this next video, you'll see they're actually spraying the gel coat on the deck mold. And so once they get the gel coat applied, it moves over where they're going to start putting on the chop laminate. So you can see operator there using a chopper gun, putting on the skin coat, and then it'll go further down the production line, and we'll follow it a little bit here. So here's their closed mold section, doing a light RTM process, utilizing one of our injection units. You can see the catalyzed resin right there going into the part. And then once all the parts are done, then you put them together. So you've got your fiberglass hole there. Operator's laying down a 10-to-1 methylmethacrylate adhesive using one of our high flow dispense guns. And then you got a finished boat for you guys to go out on the water. So when we talk about why the right equipment matters, it really starts with you, obviously, the customer. So what are your goals? What are the processes and materials that you're currently using? And then what do you hope to go to? So we work with a wide variety of folks that have all different sorts of goals and KPIs. Maybe you're doing a hand layup process and you want to start utilizing a mixed meter piece of equipment to have less waste, better quality, less downtime. Or maybe you're doing hand layup and you're really interested in going into a closed mold application for repeatability and the ability to make your labor go further. So really it starts with getting to know your process and your goals for the future. James, what are some KPIs that you see folks really honing in on?
Well, I think you covered several of them. Our customers want to see more consistent parts. They want to reduce waste, and obviously, labor's very tight. So reducing labor is a big one. Absolutely,
yeah, and that's that's a great point. The labor shortages. So this picture you see right here is another boat manufacturer, and we work with them specifically. So they have been a longtime customer for MVP, and they came out with a new line of boats that it was much bigger than things they had built in the past. They started noticing that their spray time and their labor hours per part was going up just for the pure volume of time they were having to spend spraying on the mold. And so we were able to come in. We brought in a different pumping system and cut that time in half. And so it enabled them to have more throughput because their demand, like a lot of you, I'm sure right now, demand is high. So they were able to get more boats out the door and actually put less labor hours per part, which, drives margins, and that makes everybody happy, right? So, one of the things that is really important when we start talking about leveraging expert advice is the collaboration that we see amongst the marketplace. So it's something that we really bring and want to encourage you all to do, is collaborate with the experts in the field, collaborate with the Closed Mold Alliance, with iACME. We are heavily involved in these groups because we think they bring value to you, the customer, bringing many different sets of eyes that are each experts in their field to be able to bring you a creative solution.
Yeah, and this photo actually shows one of our workshops with iACME up in Colorado. We've done, I guess, over a dozen or 17 different live workshops, and hopefully we'll get back to that later on in the year. With the vaccines rolling out and everything, and also getting back to the CAMX 2021 in Dallas in October.
Yeah, I'm excited for those things to come back. Yeah, we'd love to hear if you're going to be at CAMX, let us know in the chat. Love for you to come by the demo zone, or like James said, one of those future iACME workshops. They're I'll just do a quick plug. They're very beneficial. I learn something every time. They're very well put on, and if you're interested in coming and learning, we invite you to come out. So one of the things that when we're starting to build out a system for a customer, sometimes, we come in and we hear your goals, we hear your constraints, and it's not something that we can offer you off the shelf. And something I just wanted to hit on real quick is an engineer to order process that we do at MVP. And so we come in, we look holistically at what your production goals are, what you're doing right now, what materials you're using, where you want to go, and we're able to engineer a piece of equipment specifically for you. It may be using components off the shelf, and it may not be. And so we've had a lot of interesting solutions that have come out of this. some of our standard product line has come out of this process. And so it's something that we are really proud of. And we just look at everybody's situation individually and see how we can help make you more efficient and get better parts out the door at a quicker rate.
Drew, do you have some examples of the engineered to order and maybe some solutions that have come out of that?
Sure, yeah. So I won't say specifics because some of them I'm sure have NDAs and stuff, but there are, it's a great segue into the automation line. A lot of our customers have come to us needing more automation in their production processes. And so what we've done is actually we've set up full automation lines for customers through our engineered to order process. It's not even really things that we've done in our standard advanced equipment division, but we've had customers that come to us and said, hey, we're wanting to make this part and we want you from A to Z, make a fully automated solution for that. So that's one example. Other examples, if we have a customer come and maybe they have a flow rate that's outside the constraints of our normal pieces of equipment, or maybe it's a particularly aggressive material that maybe is not suitable for our current pumping systems, then we're able to go to engineering and come up with a solution for them to be able to utilize a piece of equipment that they may not be able to otherwise. And so while we're talking about automation, James, you go to a lot of different factories just like I do. I know you travel with a lot of different sales reps. So what would you say, and people in the chat, you can answer this as well, is one of the biggest obstacles facing folks in the field?
Yeah, what I see, these days is labor is really tight. So I mean, there's a lot of open positions in the industry, and you might go into a shop and the senior person has been there 2 weeks, and they're training the person that just started that morning. So I would say probably the biggest challenge I see is probably labor.
Good answer. Absolutely. That's what I was looking for. So, I like James, I visit a lot of different customers, and labor is always a topic of conversation. And so when we think about tailoring an equipment solution and using the right piece of equipment for your production processes, speaking about automation is going to be key. A lot of folks either are already invested in automation, they're thinking about it, they're realizing that it's going to be a requirement with demand at an all-time high and labor being hard to come by. It's really going to be important to start thinking about this if you're not already. So I wanted to go through just a couple of different pieces of automation that we have to offer. So we actually have a video of this first one, our robotic arm. And so it is a teachable robotic arm. And so what you do is you take your operator and they're able to spray the part. So you see this one right here, it's a fiberglass pool. The operator has already taught the robot how to spray it. And then once it comes through the production line, it knows that part needs to be sprayed that way every time. So you're able to utilize your current workforce and not have to invest in expensive programmers on site. We go to a lot of different shops and there's robots that are just sitting there because either a programmer has left, nobody in the current shop can program it. And so this robotic arm is really a great solution for you to be able to utilize your current workforce and get the benefits from a robot. So it's got a lot of different benefits to it that we can speak about if you're interested at a later time. But it's a cool piece of automation. And so some of these other ones we've got here,
hey, Drew,
yeah.
Can I jump in there for a second? We've got a question about another concern being wastage. Is wastage a concern that you see in the industry?
Absolutely. It's everybody is concerned about waste. They want to make sure that the materials that they are buying are going on their part. They're not going on the floor. So we've got different things to be different controls that you can actually implement into your systems to make sure that you are not wasting, right? So to make sure that you're only using the amount of resin, the amount of gel coat, the amount of adhesive that you're supposed to on your part. Whether that's through material monitors, catalyst alarms, so you're not spraying wet parts. If anybody's ever done that before and done a part without the initiator in it, usually it doesn't happen again. And so we've developed some controls that we can actually put into place to make sure that doesn't happen. So that also, having to scrap an entire part that wasn't catalyzed correctly leads to a lot of waste, a lot of labor hours that could have gone elsewhere. So yeah, great question. Wastage is definitely a large concern. And that's why, automation is key too, right? So making sure that you can do a repeatable process, making sure that you're running efficiently. If you're making a big fiberglass tank like you see here on one of our filament winders or one of our 4-axis winders for a pressure vessel, you know, that stuff, you want to make sure that it's done exactly to a T how it's supposed to be done. And you're making a large part like that, you can really get in trouble if you're not watching your materials. And so that's where this automation can really play a big key. And there in the bottom right, you can see, if you can see my mouse right here on the, this is one of our impregnators for making flat fiberglass panels. Being able to automate spraying the gel coat, spraying the resin, rolling it out can really help you maximize your labor that you have right now while still meeting the high demands that you could be experiencing.
Hey, Drew, on the robots, I noticed in the video that the operator was actually working right next to the robot. Is it safe for him to be doing that?
It is. That's a great question. We get that when we show that video. And so that's one of the nice things about the robotic arm that we supply is it is safe for the operator to be in there with it. And so one of the nice things, one of the features that's available on the robot is actually, it's a key tag that can be placed on the operator. It kind of puts a bubble around them. And so if that robot gets too close, it just shuts down. The operator, once they get out of that zone, the robot will just start picking up and going and spraying again. And so that's definitely a major concern. You don't have to have expensive fences around the molds, and really that maximizes your labor even more, right? So instead of having to spray the part, operator come in when the robot leaves, roll it out, and then move it down, they can do it right beside it as they're going. So yeah, it's definitely, it's got built-in safety features that make that possible.
Okay. We've got another question about in-process QA. Are there capabilities for that?
Sure, yeah. So as far as in-process quality assurance, so doing quality checks as they're going, I'm assuming. And so we do have, you know, we've got different material monitors that could help ensure that your quality is what you want it to be, whether that's, you know, weight measurements for your resin or, you know, I don't know. Is there anything else, James, that you've seen as far as in-process QA at customers?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, the material monitors, and you know, you can weigh the parts and see how much material is going on or in the part, depending on if it's a closed mold or an open mold process.
Right. Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Is to make sure that what you want on the part is what's coming out. And so, you know, being able, when it comes to equipment, to measure those things accurately and live, right? So we've got flow meter packages that'll actually tell you exactly what's coming out while you're spraying. And so it can tell you if you're off kilter, and you know, some of the automated solutions really brings that ability to be able to make sure that your quality is what it's supposed to be. So great questions. Thanks for asking them. Keep them coming. So when we talk about the future of production processes, when we talk about the future of automation, one thing that we are really proud of is our RAM. So it's our Reactive Additive Manufacturing 3D printer. So it's the world's first and only large-scale thermoset 3D printer. So we have a video of this. I'll talk about it some while we go through it. So right here, like I mentioned earlier, so this is a 3D printer that's doing an aerospace part for a customer. So you can see it's laying down that bead. It's actually a vinyl ester-based material from Polent. You can see the bed on the 3D printer is what moves. So it really gives it some cool capabilities to be able to be really versatile. And you can see, if you know a lot about 3D printing, you can see some of the pick and place features that is not capable or not possible on some of the traditional thermoplastic 3D printers. So, you know, you may have a lot of questions about the 3D printer. I'll be honest, I'm not the expert on it. We have experts that are on that. And so I know we've even mentioned, you know, if you're interested in another tech talk on additive or on this 3D printer, put it in the chat. And that's definitely something we could schedule with our in-house experts.
Yeah. So what are some of the benefits of the thermoset additive manufacturing versus thermoplastic?
Yeah, great question. So some of the stuff that I know off the top of my head, so when you're dealing with thermosets, it's an actual chemical reaction, right? So the bond is going to be a lot stronger as opposed to you know, some of the traditional thermosets. Some of the ways that you can print, just due to the fact that it is a thermoset, is inherently easier or more beneficial. And so there's we could do probably an hour. I was preparing for this, talking to our 3D printer expert. He said, hey, I could give an hour just on that topic alone. So if that is something you're interested in, we'd love either to do another tech talk in the future, let us know, or we can talk to you one-on-one. Because some of the small things like the energy savings that we found once we started doing a time study on that, the RAM from us on the 3D printer uses a fraction of the energy that a traditional thermoplastic one does, just due to the fact that you don't have to have heat. So let us know in the chat if that's something you'd be interested in talking about.
And you mentioned using a vinyl ester system. Can they be reinforced as well?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So there is definitely the possibility, and we have printed with reinforcements in there as well with glass fibers. And as you saw in that video, they were able to place a piece of foam in as well when they were doing that part. So yes, absolutely. Great questions. We appreciate the engagement. So James, like like we've seen and like we've talked about, it's important to dial in the right piece of equipment. It's important to make sure that you're using what you need to be efficient. What's even equally as important is to make sure that the equipment is working for you and you're not working for the equipment, right? So that's where service comes and plays a key role in making sure that you're using, that your equipment is doing what it should be doing, and that's building quality parts for you. So we work extensively with customers, and we encourage customers have robust preventative maintenance programs. Make sure that you are taking care of your equipment during the times when you're not running production, so that the equipment is working for you instead of you working for the equipment. So it's something that we hammer home, and I'm sure, James, that you've seen as you talk to customers as well, the importance of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you want to make sure your equipment's working right. Basically like the day you got it, because there are some parts that do wear, that need to be maintained.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. We have another question related to waste. I guess what's considered the less wasteful process for regular parts? I guess not including like a continuous process like pultrusion or SMC or DMC. There's a lot of different composite processes. Obviously, we've seen open molding, then the closed molding with traditional vacuum infusion, but also, as you mentioned before, like the reusable silicone bag molding and light RTM. So I would say, somewhere where you're kitting the reinforcements, so you have very little reinforcement waste, and then using injection equipment to inject the resin, whether it's with a reusable bag or like a light RTM mold, where you get how many strokes of resin you're putting in, and you have very little resin waste and very little trim waste as well.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that, I would agree. That's one of the things that I love about this industry is there's not a one size fits all process, right, for whatever you're doing. And so that's why I just want to go back and, to the previous slide, leveraging the experts, right? So get us involved, whatever process you're doing. If you're experiencing a lot of waste, then let's talk about it. Let's say, hey, how can we either transition to a different process? Maybe you're doing an open mold and you're like, man, I'm just wasting a lot of material. Let's talk about maybe a transition to closed mold or reusable bag or a VIP process or something like that. And so, it's an exciting, fun industry. If you're on here and you're a part of it, I'm sure you feel the same way. And it's exciting to help learn customers' goals and help them achieve them.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
awesome.
Now's a great time to open it up for questions. Thanks for your presentation today, Drew.
No, thanks. Sorry. I appreciate everybody's time, and great questions. So I really appreciate the engagement, and if you got any more, we'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, it was a great presentation, great conversation. Thank you, Drew. So any questions that the audience might have? we want to go ahead and take a moment to make sure that we answer any further questions that you guys might have. Or maybe you have a topic that we might want to cover in the future. Make sure, write that in the chat as well.
Yeah, and this session will also be available afterwards, and so you can share it with your colleagues that maybe haven't been able to make it. Okay. So go ahead and hit the next slide, Drew. So while we're waiting for any questions to roll in, we want to let you know to join us next month for our next topic. It's going to be on June 24th at 1 p.m. Central Time in the U.S. And it's going to be on fiber dispersion via hydroentanglement with Endeavor Composites.
Yep, super excited for that conversation. Super excited for Hisham to explain a little bit about that topic title as well. So maybe we can dive into that.
Yeah, Tyler, you'll be doing that as well, right? So you'll be jumping in and
walking right alongside him. I'm
there
really
you
looking
go.
forward to it.
Hisham's great. I'll definitely be tuning in for that.
Yeah, Endeavor's they've developed a mixer technology so they can disperse long carbon fiber, so you can get defect-free mats and preforms. Wow. That'll be an interesting topic. A little bit outside of the typical open molding and closed mold processes.
It's exciting.
Yeah, a little bit outside the box, but super excited for that one. All right. Well, it looks like we'll wait a little bit longer for any other further questions, but if not, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We're super thankful for everyone that could join us today.
Yeah, thank you, Drew. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you again next month on June 24th.
Thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Look out for news on the next month's Composites Tech Talks. Talk soon.